Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into mindful parenting today.
Oh, my favorite.
It's something we all strive for, right?
Yeah,
Especially with, everything going on these days.
totally.
But with our crazy schedules, who actually has time for it?
Right.
So we're checking out this guide, Mindful Parenting in 2025, to
Oh, I've heard good things.
yeah, it's supposed to be super helpful, especially for making mindfulness practical even in our crazy busy lives.
Interesting. It's funny because the guide actually argues that by 2025, technology is going to make it even harder to unplug and connect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So it's like now's the time to really get a head start on this whole mindful parenting thing.
exactly. And that's where this guide comes in.
Okay, so no need to, escape to a monastery or anything.
Nope, not at all. In fact, one of the first things it unpacks is how we can actually find these little mindful moments right in the middle of all the everyday chaos.
I like that.
It all starts with understanding what mindful parenting actually means. And it's simpler than you might think.
Okay.
It's really about being present.
Present.
Yeah, and I don't just mean physically being in the same room as your kid, but being like mentally and emotionally engaged with them too.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess it's about, being more aware of your own emotions in those moments too, huh?
Absolutely. It's about noticing your own feelings and then making a conscious choice about how you respond to your kid rather than just like reacting on autopilot.
Oh, totally.
And the guide really highlights how that one shift, just that awareness, can actually reduce stress for everybody. And yes, parents very much included.
Sign me up for less stress. But how do we, actually do this? Where do we even begin?
Well, the guide suggests starting with something we all do naturally every single day.
Breathing.
Breathing. Seriously.
I know, right? It sounds almost too simple,
Yeah.
but the science behind it is actually pretty fascinating.
Deep, intentional breathing, like really paying attention to your breath, it literally changes our physiology. It calms down the nervous system. It lowers your heart rate. It's like flipping a switch from like fight or flight mode to rest and digest.
Interesting. That makes sense, but how do you get kids on board with, a breathing exercise?
Well, that's the beauty of it. The guide recommends using simple, relatable cues.
Okay, like what?
For example, you could tell your child, okay, we're going to inhale like you're smelling a flower and then exhale like you're blowing out a candle.
I love that. It's so visual. It's easy to remember. Even, really young kids can grasp that.
Exactly. And the guide really emphasizes practicing this, not just when things are calm and peaceful, but especially when things start to feel, a little bit stressful.
So it's like building a mindful muscle.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like having a superpower in your back pocket for those meltdown moments.
Oh, speaking of meltdowns, any tips for those after-school hours? Because, man, those can be brutal.
Oh, tell me about it. Between the homework battles and everyone starving, it's like a recipe for disaster some days.
Right. I'm guessing this guide has some mindful solutions for us.
You bet it does, and it actually ties in directly to what we were just talking about, being present.
Okay.
You see, the guide emphasizes that for kids, feeling truly heard is so essential. They need to know that their feelings are valid and important, even when their behavior might be a little, much, let's say.
That makes sense, but I'll be honest, sometimes I'm guilty of, the old, that's nice, honey, while also mentally planning dinner and answering emails in my head.
I think we've all been there, right? But as you can imagine, kids can spot that a mile away.
Oh, for sure.
The guide talks about how crucial active listening is for building trust and connection.
So what does, active listening actually look like in the real world?
Well, it starts with putting down the distractions, making eye contact, and really truly absorbing what your child is saying.
Oof. Okay, I can definitely work on that. Feeling a little guilty about that last email I snuck in while my kid was telling me about their day.
We've all done it. But what I find really helpful is this one tip from the guide. Reflecting back what your child said.
Oh, interesting.
It shows them that you're not just hearing their words, but you're actually trying to understand their meaning.
It's so easy to fall into that fix-it mode as parents,
Yeah.
Like we jump in with solutions before we've even really listened to the problem.
Oh, 100%.
But sometimes just feeling heard is the solution.
Exactly. And the guide dives even deeper into the importance of emotional awareness, both for parents and for kids.
Okay, before we move on to that, I need to know more about those after-school meltdowns. How can we handle those with a little more mindfulness?
Oh, right, those after-school meltdowns.
Yeah.
So the guide suggests that instead of like jumping in to fix it or make it stop, we can actually use those moments as opportunities
Oh, interesting.
to teach kids about emotional awareness.
Okay, so instead of saying, stop being so dramatic, you're fine, we'd like take a different approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember how we were talking about active listening?
Yeah.
This is where it's really key. So instead of dismissing their feelings, we can acknowledge them.
Yeah.
We can say something like, wow, it sounds like you're having a really tough time right now. What's going on?
So validate their feelings, even if we don't totally get it in that moment.
Exactly. And here's where it gets, like, super interesting.
Okay.
The guide talks about actually helping kids label their emotions.
Oh.
Because sometimes kids don't have the words for what they're feeling.
Right, right.
They just know it feels big and, like, overwhelming.
Totally.
So are we talking about, like, a feelings chart with pictures and stuff? Or is this something we can do on the fly?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
It can be both. A feelings chart is awesome, especially for younger kids.
Yeah.
But even in the heat of the moment, just, like, naming the emotion can be so powerful. We can say something like, you seem really frustrated right now, or I'm noticing you're feeling angry.
You know, I actually tried that with my son the other day when he was about to have a full-blown Lego meltdown. And I was like skeptical, but it actually kind of worked.
Right.
It was like hitting the pause button.
It's amazing how powerful a little validation can be.
Totally.
And the guide was saying, like, labeling those emotions, it doesn't just help kids feel heard and understood, but it also helps them develop those super important emotional regulation skills.
Which, let's be real, is a superpower we could all use a little more of.
Right.
But I'm also realizing, like, this mindful parenting thing is not just about what we do with our kids. It's about how we're handling our own emotions in those moments too, you know?
Oh, 100%. And the guide is very clear about this. Self-compassion is not optional.
Okay,
It's essential for mindful parenting.
got it.
We have to extend the same grace to ourselves that we're trying to teach our kids.
So on those days when I lose my cool or, like, snap at my kid, I'm not a complete mindful parenting failure.
Absolutely not. We all have those moments. Remember, mindfulness is a practice, not a destination, right?
Right.
No one is perfect at this.
Yeah.
And that's okay. In fact, the guide actually talks about how those imperfect moments, those can actually be really valuable teaching opportunities.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, when we mess up, we have a chance to model repair.
Okay.
We can apologize to our kids, we can talk about what happened, and we can even, like, brainstorm together about how we might handle a similar situation differently next time.
That's a really good point. It's not about pretending we never make mistakes.
Right.
It's about showing our kids how to, like, navigate those mistakes with honesty and intention.
Exactly. It's about showing them that we're all learning and growing together.
Like that.
And on that note, the guide also encourages parents to really celebrate those little wins,
I like that.
those moments when we do manage to stay present and connected, even amidst all the chaos.
Okay, I love that. So often we focus on what went wrong, right?
Yeah.
But celebrating the good stuff, that's huge. But I'm curious, since the guide is called Mindful Parenting in 2025, are there any, like, specific predictions about what family life might look like in the future?
There are, and some of them are pretty mind-blowing.
Uh-huh.
For example, the guide talks about how the rise of virtual reality and artificial intelligence is going to create even more distractions and challenges for families.
Wow, that's both exciting and a little terrifying at the same time. So, like, how do we prepare for that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
And while the guide doesn't offer a crystal ball, it does emphasize that the skills we're talking about today, that presence, that connection, that emotional awareness, those are going to be even more important in the future.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Like, will family dinners in 2025 involve everyone wearing VR headsets?
Oh, I hope not.
Hopefully not. But seriously, how can we make sure that technology enhances our family life rather than becoming a barrier to connection? It's almost like we need to be, like, even more intentional now about creating those unplugged, connected moments as a family.
Exactly. And the guide actually offers some really good advice on how to do that.
Yeah.
For example, it suggests creating tech-free zones in the house,
No.
like the dinner table or the bedroom.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've been trying to be better about, like, putting my phone away during meal times, and it's crazy how much more present I feel, even just by making that small change.
It's those small changes that make a big difference. And it's not even just about, like, limiting screen time. It's about being mindful about the quality of the time that you are spending together as a family.
Totally.
Even if it's just 15 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Make it count.
Be present.
Put away the distractions. Be fully present. Really tune into each other.
So simple, but so important.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that mindfulness isn't about like adding more to our to-do list. It's about shifting how we're approaching what's already there.
Exactly. It's about finding those pockets of presence in those everyday moments.
Right?
Like really listening to your kid while they're telling you about their day.
Yeah.
Or like actually savoring that family meal without rushing.
It makes you realize that maybe the secret to like really thriving as a family, both now and in this crazy future, it isn't about having all the answers.
Right.
Or like, keeping up with every single new gadget or whatever. Maybe it's about something way simpler.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's about, giving our kids the tools they need to navigate this world, which is just getting more and more complex, right?
Right.
Emotional intelligence, resilience, empathy.
Yeah.
And we do that. We give them those tools by modeling those qualities ourselves.
Wow.
One mindful breath, one heartfelt conversation, one connected moment at a time.
I love that. That's beautiful. And while this whole deep dive into mindful parenting in 2025 has given us so much to think about, especially in terms of like the future of family and all of that, it really all comes back to the choices that we're making today.
Absolutely. The future is built one present moment at a time.
So true.
Oh.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, I'm left wondering, what small act of mindfulness can I bring into my family's life today, right now?
That's a great question.
And I think I'm going to ask them that same question tonight at dinner.
I love that.
No phones allowed, of course.
Of course not. That's awesome.
Thanks for diving into this with me.
My pleasure. This was fun.
And to all of our listeners, we hope you found some like valuable insights and maybe a little inspiration to bring a little more mindfulness into your own family's life as well.
Here, here.
Until next time, be present, be curious, and be kind to yourselves.